The Boys Season 5 has been treating us to absolute peak with every single episode they've released. And since I've been dropping reviews on the show every Wednesday, I started thinking, why not make a versus video on which characters can actually beat Soldier Boy? Because as we know, Soldier Boy is one of the strongest characters in the entire verse, right up there with Homelander, of course. And what makes it even more interesting is that a lot of the Boys characters are clearly inspired by Marvel and DC. And honestly, I feel like Supes in the Boys do not get enough credit at all, especially the top tier ones like Soldier Boy, Homelander, and the rest of the 7. And yeah, I know a lot of people always put Homelander on fraud watch because the show doesn't always have him going all out, but based on the information we've already been given, these characters are still insanely dangerous. Now without further ado, let's get straight into it. The top of the tier is we have They Beat Soldier Boy, Honorable Battle, which means this is a very close fight. There's blood gushing everywhere, but in the end, Soldier Boy will win. It'll take some time, pretty self-explanatory, and they lose easily, also self-explanatory. Coming in first, we have Captain America. This is one of the most obvious matchups because Soldier Boy is basically, as I already said, the Boys' universe's version of Captain America. Now right off the bat, I think Steve would actually do better than people think. Captain America is a way better pure fighter than most people give him credit for. His hand-to-hand skill is absolutely elite, his shield gives him both offense and defense, and more importantly, Steve is the kind of fighter who adjusts quickly. Now he would realize almost immediately that Soldier Boy is stronger than him and way harder to hurt. So Cap wouldn't just stand there trying to slug it out like an idiot. And for a little while, I think that actually works. I could totally see Cap controlling the pace early and then landing some clean shots. The problem is Soldier Boy is just too much physically. I mean, for God's sakes, there's a scene where people were shooting machine guns into his open mouth and he survived. Like, it didn't even faze him at all. Well, it kind of fazed him, but that didn't kill him at all. So I mean, what really would? And if Soldier Boy decides to use the blast too, then it gets worse because Cap really has no answer to that at all. Captain America does make this a really good fight, but honestly, I don't think he wins, but it definitely will be 100% an honorable battle. Next, we have the Winter Soldier. Now, Bucky is an interesting one because unlike Steve, Bucky fights dirtier. He's more ruthless, more willing to use guns, knives, all of that good stuff, just like how Soldier Boy fights. Now, if this is a random encounter and Bucky has no prep time, I think he gets folded pretty, I wouldn't say easily, but pretty badly. He could unload with firearms, maybe even catch Soldier Boy off guard for a second, but none of that would actually do anything to Soldier Boy. It'll kind of all just bounce off of him. Now, Bucky's metal arm helps, sure, but it's not really saving him from a guy who can ragdoll superhumans. And I really hate to break it, but I feel like it would just take Soldier Boy some time. Next, we have the Batman. So Bruce is where things get fun because with Batman, the whole conversation changes depending on if he literally has prep time or not. Like if Batman randomly ran into Soldier Boy in an alley and it's just straight hands, like I don't care how skilled Batman is, he is not beating Soldier Boy in a random fist fight. Just like how Batman couldn't beat Superman in a fist fight, he needed Kryptonite to weaken him to then fight him, which essentially is prep time. Soldier Boy is just way too strong for Batman. I mean, we're talking about human versus literally guy pumped up on Compound V, or actually V1. Now, if Batman knows Soldier Boy is coming and has time to study him, then we've got a real matchup because Batman's biggest strength has never been his punches, it's obviously his information. He would need to isolate him and maybe even bait out the blast in a controlled environment. And honestly, I do think with prep time, Batman could win. It would not be easy and it would not be clean, but Bruce has beaten physically superior opponents his whole career by being just simply smarter than them. You could say this is kind of a 50-50, but Batman always has prep. Let's be honest here. Batman's really not going into a fight without prep time. So yes, Batman beats Soldier Boy. And next we have Daredevil. Now, Daredevil is one of those fights where I actually feel bad for Matt, because yes, Daredevil is an amazing fighter, his senses are ridiculous, his reflexes are also crazy, and he's one of the most skilled hand-to-hand characters in Marvel. So visually, this fight would look kind of awesome at first. Matt would be slipping punches, landing clean combinations as he does best, and moving around like an absolute demon. But, I mean, here's the issue. None of that is doing enough to Soldier Boy at all, let's be real here. Daredevil thrives against human level opponents or guys he can break down over time, but Soldier Boy is really not that kind of opponent whatsoever. Matt could probably avoid getting hit for a while, but all it takes is one good shot from Soldier Boy, bro, and Daredevil is completely finished. And knowing Soldier Boy, once he realizes Matt is a slippery fighter, he's just going to start fighting uglier and more aggressively. I mean, since Winter Soldier is in It'll Take Some Time, I kind of have to put Daredevil next to him if I'm going to be honest. Ooh, I don't know. We'll just leave it like that for now. Next we have Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. So this is actually a really fun fight if we're talking purely vibes, because both of these dudes fight like absolute animals. They're both brutal and both love imposing their will physically. And as we all know, in The Dark Knight Rises, he is not a metahuman or a supernatural being like you would see, I don't know, in the Arkham games, like when Bane is completely juiced up on that juice, you know what I'm saying? But no, he is simply just a human in this film. Obviously, he's a very skilled combatant in this film if he goes toe-to-toe with Batman. Now, obviously, he did dominate Batman, so you would be like, wait, if he dominated Batman, obviously he would dominate Soldier Boy if Batman would win. But the thing is, no, Batman would not dominate Soldier Boy in hand-to-hand combat, and neither would Bane. But I mean, I would think Bane would have one or two moments where he lands clean shots and maybe surprises Soldier Boy. Actually, what am I talking about? Actually, he probably could, but at the end of the day, I don't really think he's really going to do that much. Next we have Iron Man. So Tony Stark is where Soldier Boy starts running into a real trouble, because Tony is one of those characters where the suit matters a lot. If we're talking about some weaker MCU armor, then maybe Soldier Boy can make it ugly, but if we're talking about a stronger standard Iron Man suit, Tony should win this 9 times out of 10, or maybe 10 times out of 10. And the reason is range and his intelligence. Tony's kind of like Batman in a way, except that his technology and his suit is way better than Batman's. Tony obviously is not just going to stand there and box with Soldier Boy unless he's, being stupid. He's going to immediately realize that this guy hits like a truck, and he's going to be like, okay, let me distance myself from this guy. But I just think Iron Man has too many tools. He has missiles, flight, targeting systems, environmental manipulation, and so much more. And all of that just completely adds up. Soldier Boy might tank a lot longer than Tony expects because his durability is very high, but over time, I feel like Iron Man takes this. I'm not gonna lie. I would put him over Batman in this scenario. Next, we have Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man is a hard matchup here because Peter's speed makes this fight really weird. If Soldier Boy fights Spider-Man the way he fights most people, he's going to get very frustrated very fast. Now, Peter is really fast, and his spider sense is a nightmare for someone like Soldier Boy. He'd be dodging punches, flipping over him, and just being incredibly annoying to deal with. Now, Spider-Man can absolutely hurt heavy hitters when he cuts loose. The only reason this fight is even debatable is because Soldier Boy is insanely durable. Also, if Soldier Boy charges up the blast at the right time, Peter could get caught if he's in close, but I just feel like Peter wouldn't get hit by that blast at all because his spider senses wouldn't allow that to happen at all. Honestly, you could say he beats Soldier Boy over time just because of how fast he is and how slippery he is. Because hey, bro, Spider-Man has gone up against some pretty durable people. Next, we have Wolverine. Now, this is one of my favorite matchups on this list because it would be an absolute bloodbath. This is one of those fights where neither guy is backing down at all. Soldier Boy would probably come in thinking Logan is just some angry dude with claws, and then within like 30 seconds, he realizes, oh, this guy is a complete psychopath. Wolverine would make this fight absolutely disgusting. He is getting inside Soldier Boy's range, taking hits, getting back up, and just refusing to die. The real question here is whether Soldier Boy can actually put Logan down, or whether can Logan put, really just who can put who down first. Because both of these guys are not backing up at all. They're going full fight to the death. Like, permanently stopping Logan is another scary story, and I don't think Soldier Boy is that intelligent enough to go out of his way to find a weakness on how to permanently stop Wolverine. Meanwhile, Wolverine's claws are one of the few weapons here that I fully buy being able to do serious damage to Soldier Boy. And also, Wolverine has healing factors, so that's a plus. I think you'll win. And last but not least, we have Green Goblin. Now, you might say, dude, there's no way you put the Green Goblin in honorable battle. And hold on, let me cook. Green Goblin is one of those characters who can turn a straightforward fight into complete nonsense. Now, Soldier Boy would hate fighting him because Norman is not giving him the clean brawl he wants. He'd be blowing up the battlefield and constantly forcing Soldier Boy to react. Now, in a straight up physical exchange, Soldier Boy is stronger and tougher, no questions, but I do think Goblin's unpredictability is a huge factor in this scenario. He's not just dangerous physically, he's mentally deranged in a way that makes him harder to read. Soldier Boy is used to overpowering people and breaking their spirit. Goblin has no spirit to break whatsoever. This guy is completely insane. So I actually think Green Goblin would really stand a chance more often than not by keeping his distance and never letting Soldier Boy settle into a complete rhythm. Now, I know this might be a completely wacky list, I am not gonna lie, and some of these might be pretty controversial, but please let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. And yeah.